Belhart.
Here.
And Ms. Cimaroli.
Let's make a lost turn.
Where'd she go? She'll be
She
back.
was having problems with unmuting.
Okay.
Having problems with who?
Unmuting.
Oh,
All right.
Must have pressed the red X by accident.
Yeah. I think public comment will get patched.
I'll wait till the end, the last piece.
Okay. Do we want to,
You want to skip?
the minutes and then go straight to old business?
I think we can adopt the minutes real quick, right?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, just adopt the minutes.
All right, does anyone have any changes or comments on the last month's minutes?
That's just it.
Okay. I have a motion.
so moved that, well,
Yeah.
that,
I'll make a motion.
or make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Or-
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. Okay. All right, so we're gonna skip new business and move to old business and talk about the,
Oh, wait a minute, we can't skip the new business yet because we walked up it today.
No, we're not skipping it.
we're,
going
yeah,
back.
we're just,
No, oh, I just was gonna, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
we're
was
going
just gonna
back to
say,
it.
yeah.
Because Brandy's here.
I was able to tell my husband, this is gonna get minutes.
we will,
Okay,
we
sorry.
will come back to it
All
after
righty.
we discuss the downtown zoning district, because we have Brandy online here. Hi, Brandy.
Hi, Randy.
Hi everyone. Hi.
All right.
Okay.
Everyone got the RFP last month, and at last month's meeting, there was a request to have Brandy come and answer any questions we may have on the RFP that she presented. And this is kind of straight from the comp plan. It was a recommendation from the downtown chapter that basically suggests that there should be a special zoning ordinance for the downtown. Currently, the downtown is part of the M district. It's the red. It does pretty much all the low lines areas in the borough. The goal from the comp plan, if you remember, was to preserve the character of the downtown so that uses that you traditionally see in a downtown would be the only uses there, not warehousing, car sales, manufacturing, that kind of stuff. And then those uses would just stay remaining throughout the rest of the M district, not to get rid of the mixed-use character. The mixed-use character is what makes downtown Ridgeville special. It's just find a way to sharpen the pencil a little bit, and that's what was recommended in the comp plan. We put out an RFP. As you all know, we had 2 proposals received. We went over those 2, and the request was to then have Mackin come here tonight to answer any questions you guys had.
What about the other one, the extraordinarily?
We didn't go back to them knowing that the price was,
I guess, I had thought you were gonna go, oh, that's a hard question to ask, like, why is this so ridiculously expensive?
you know.
Yeah, no, they asked that question, okay.
I guess the only question I would have is what is the process to going from putting the proposal out to actually coming up with something that you send to council?
See, that's where this one was unique, is that we were hoping to get state funding similar to what we received to help us draft the comp plan for this zoning project. So when we talked to the state, they recommended we put an RFP out, such as this, to see what the numbers were coming in at. Then make a grant application to the state for municipal assistance funding that would fund half of this. Well, we know what Mackin's number is. The request would be to Borough Council to authorize me to apply for a grant for this project. And then when the grant's awarded, then we would just move ahead with a contract with the planning consultant.
Okay. And then is it like kind of like when we did the active transportation or the comprehensive plan? Do we sit down and kind of figure out what we want to see, or is it taken directly from the comprehensive plan?
No. Brandy, you can chime in here. I believe there's several input meetings that you have with the planning commission and the public on how that wants to be drafted, because it's going to be with public input.
That's all I thought. I just want to make sure.
Brady, can you speak on the public input, just so that this doesn't turn to be like a cookie cutter from the comp plan or a boilerplate from another town?
Right, yeah. There was as you all know, there was a general recommendation in the comp plan to look at your downtown area and determine if it's appropriate to create a downtown district covering just what's primarily your core downtown area, as Joe mentioned earlier, to really hone in on the uses that are appropriate for a downtown, as well as making sure that future development and redevelopment respects the character of your downtown. So that was a very general recommendation in the comp plan. So this process will take it a step further, where we will meet with planning commission, do some surveying, do some public meetings, to determine how that district should actually be crafted, what it should include, what uses would be permitted, what would be any additional regulations that are needed regarding parking, landscaping, signage, building placement, that kind of thing, as well as any dimensional requirements, setbacks, height, building heights, that kind of thing. So that's what we're kind of looking at, more fine tuning that through this process, and some additional public outreach that was outlined in the proposal, which does include, like I said, a few meetings with planning commission, a public meeting, surveying, and a public hearing. And we believe this could be done in a 6-month process, so it wouldn't be as intense as the comprehensive plan, which, as you know, was close to 2 years. This sort of process, I believe, could take place in 6 months.
Okay.
Randy,
Yeah,
I got a question. Looking at this and being familiar with the comp plan, as you are, and thinking about zoning, thinking about a downtown zone district, do you think it would be advisable, even as in a small town, small business district like Bridgeville has, would it be advisable to maybe look at maybe building 2 zones? One, say, from Bower Hill south, the active district, and from Bower Hill north to Carnegie, not Carnegie,
Collier.
In an area that really hasn't been developed or has potential for development.
We could talk about that during the process, to see what people in the community think about that, but what I remember from the comprehensive plan is that the idea, especially with that redevelopment area, in the portion of Washington Pike that's near Collier, is to extend the business district down a little bit further, and to encourage a mixed-use type development that would have a lot of the same character and uses that would be in your central business district. But that's something that I think could be examined during this process. Off the top of my head, I was thinking that it would be extended down with the central business district. But, we would go through a public process to see what would be best for the borough.
Brandy, do you anticipate like the public meetings would include existing business owners and general public, or, okay, so not?
Yeah, I think I would want to specifically invite the business owners to attend. We would love to hear from them, obviously, as part of this process. In the proposal, I did add an add-on item. It's not in the, it would be an additional cost to what's in the budget that was provided, but it's a design charrette that I think would be good to have with business owners and maybe some other, interested stakeholders to really get some input from those types of folks. But, that, again, would cost more money, so if that would not be feasible, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the business owners through surveying, and then also specifically inviting them to the public meeting that will be held, as part of this process.
Okay.
What kind of a vision do you think, do you have for this? I mean, is this, I mean, we need to, you know, we need to be thinking about how Bridgeville's gonna look 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line. What's kind of your vision for doing something like this?
So, I think vision, I don't have a vision, I think that's kind of the wrong word, but my goal, or my, what I would hope to be able to facilitate through this process, because again, this is not my vision for Bridgeville, this is your vision and the community's vision for Bridgeville. So my goal in facilitating a process like this for you would be to determine what is the best route moving forward in terms of zoning regulations to make sure that your central business district is protected and it has the ability to grow into the future.
So it's sort of,
Putting regulations in place that, and putting uses in place that allow that to happen and to continue.
okay, I mean, you know, being kind of forward thinking, you know, what sort of zoning how would you craft the zoning? I mean, you know, the business world has changed, and you know, we've gone from, you know, the mom and pop corner store to the big box store to now we're kind of going back to, you know, craft breweries and smaller retails type things. I mean, how would you craft a zoning district for that?
So you would want to make sure that the appropriate uses are in place that would be permitted. So as Joe mentioned earlier, you know, avoiding some of the higher intensity uses such as gas stations, auto retail, that kind of thing, that take away from the character of a small walkable business district. Promoting uses such as that we talked about during the comprehensive plan, like the entrepreneurial type retail, commercial uses, second story residential, small offices, you know, a small brewery, restaurants, coffee shops. You know, those are the types of uses that you currently do have there, and you would want to continue to allow, and make sure that you're really condensing the uses that are allowed in the central business district to be the ones that are targeted for that, and not allowing the larger intense uses that could take away from the character of the district. That's the main thing. Your use table would be the most important piece of this. And then there would be additional regulations that we'd want to look at as well, in regard to setbacks, building height, parking, signage, and that kind of thing, to complement all of that. But I believe your use table would be one of the first things that we would look at, and one of the most important pieces of this project.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, question for you. So when you apply for the grant, you have to have the total cost of the project to apply for that, okay. So if we wanted to consider that add-on, we would need that quote from Brandy. Brandy, I don't think that's in your pricing proposal.
It is.
Is it?
It's not in the price proposal, but it's in the.
Oh, I see it here, okay.
The technical proposal,
Yep.
it has an additional cost of $2,500.
Okay. I entirely missed that. Justine, did you have some questions from last month?
What's the chat? What's the thing? I can't.
hear me now?
Yes. Were you able to hear us? You just couldn't unmute?
No, I don't know what happened. Anyway, I've been fussing around with it for the last 10 minutes. So Brandy, let me ask you a question. Knowing that the landscape in, Brandy, do you happen to see the Washington Post article about Sheffield, PA in Warren
I
County?
did not. No, I did not.
It's interesting because it was a discussion about how towns like Sheffield, which is very close, it is part of Warren County, right? The community's disappearing because there's no real estate income, there's no businesses coming in, and so forth. So do you happen to know, understanding, it's my guess that we're probably talking 10 years out before, something like the north end gets into development, all right?
Sure.
As far as you know, do you know, are there any articles out there are being discussed about how communities should handle an implosion of lack of residents or a lack of businesses? And are there things that that urban planners are looking at to develop to improve an outcome for a business like Bridgeville?
I don't know of any articles off the top of my head, but there are model ordinances. Montgomery County, which is outside of Philadelphia, has town center ordinances. There are other things through the state, through DCD and PSAT and things like that, that provide model ordinances for downtowns and creating and protecting town centers, downtown areas. And those are primarily done through zoning. Now, there are other ways that communities can try to attract residents and businesses through, marketing efforts, through participating in programs like through your county or through your Chamber of Commerce, to try to put together packages or promote or advertise available real estate and try to get interest into your community. So there are multiple ways. This process here is just primarily looking at zoning and making sure that you have the proper zoning in place to protect your district and encourage the type of development that you want to see happen here into the future.
So, okay, because I'm sure that in 10 years, when this thing gets built, or the north end gets built,
Mm-hmm.
that 5 or 10 years after that, can see a completely different environment, right?
For sure. I mean, things change all the time, and there's easy ways for you to amend your ordinance. If things change in the future, if the community doesn't change, then it usually doesn't grow or continue to exist. So, communities make changes all the time, which is what you're currently looking at, is changing your ordinance through this process. So that can continue in the future as situations change, as the market changes, if opportunities arise that aren't here today, for you to respond to. So yeah, you always want to be, and we, put that into the comprehensive plan, into the information that we use to, when we're discussing the comprehensive plan, is that you want to remain flexible. A comprehensive plan and your ordinances, should be able to be flexible to change, so they can be amended or changed as things change in the future. But this process here is currently just looking at, do you need to have a separate district for your downtown, again, to protect that district and encourage the type of development that you have there into the future.
Okay.
And make it easy for people that want to come in and develop, to make it easy for the type of development that the borough wants to see. So you don't have additional hoops for people to jump through.
Okay. All right, thanks.
This is one step in a multi-step, multi-year, multi-decade
Right.
process. You're right, Justine, yes. This is kind of your first step and one of the easier steps.
Oh, okay.
did talk about that, in the comprehensive plan. We, did have a timeline in the comprehensive plan, and I believe those were shorter term action items. And I think working with the county and the chamber has already started. I'm pretty sure Joe has, met with them, and I think others have as well, to start, thinking about some of the things that were in the comprehensive plan, that they can help you out with.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Brandy? Thanks, Brandy.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, no problem. If you need anything else, you just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Did you get town center ordinances like she's done?
This is part of tonight's conversation that we need to discuss. We want to make a recommendation to council for you to apply for the grant.
You're basically saying, do you wanna do this now, or do you wanna wait? And if you wanna do it now, it's just, hey, we'll recommend for our council that.
Because it's gonna take time to get the grant.
Correct.
So,
Yes. And we can always sharpen the pencil, but sharpen the vision for the scope.
right.
I don't think there's any value in waiting.
No, it's gonna take time. Yep.
Is that, so those grants, I mean, is there a certain cycle for them or?
I have to check.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a question. Would it make sense to wait 6 months and, put out take the RFP and put it out again, just to see if we get different consultants? I'm not saying that I have any issues with, Randy or them, but since we had a lack of response to the RFP, I'm just wondering if maybe little different time, little different climate might change that. I mean, I'm asking the question, I don't think there's a wrong answer to this, but I just tossing this out. And it's nothing against Joe. Joe's done a fine job, and I don't wanna waste his time, but, I'm just wondering if maybe there's another possibility of getting a different perspective on things.
We reached out to the other firms, like if you remember when we did the comp plan, we interviewed a couple other more forward-thinking planning consultants, and the one who was like a runner-up, that we didn't choose Mac when we were looking at that other firm, and we went to them, because they showed interest in doing this process, and they came back now saying, hey, we don't want to do the ordinance work. So, I don't know what's out there.
Well, it looks like one of the firms you reached back out to didn't respond to you at all.
No.
Even on the second.
Correct. Then the only other thing I think that was going against us, Dale, was that, following the recommendation of the state, because we wanted to get state money for this versus paying for the whole thing ourselves, was that some people said, hey, this is just like them asking for an estimate, and if they get the grant, if they don't get the grant, it's not worth my time doing all that work, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that may have scared some people off too.
Yeah, well, and I mean, a lot of consultants may be busy this time of the year, and depending on what the economy does in the next 6, 8 months, 12 months, it may be a totally different atmosphere for getting, proposals. I don't know, I just.
Can you, I'm struggling a little to understand what you feel like is the missing piece of this. What, if we found somebody else, what would that company look like?
I don't know, but, maybe just a little different perspective on zoning and ideas for a different
are looking for in zoning, might be beneficial. I'm the first to say I do not know or understand 100% of what zoning does. All right, so a primer on what things that we could look or what we should think about doing might be a first step. I don't know.
I think zoning, though, is not as open-minded as much as drafting the plan was. It's crafting law, but in regards to forward thinking, there is some trends within just, I would say, industry trends for zoning now, just trying to make more urban centers. So you're seeing towns, this is maybe controversial, but do away with minimum parking requirements. Encourage more multifamily uses in areas because people now can't afford a single family home. So find ways to put duplexes where, you know, that's the trend.
And also, just like the comprehensive plan, we're not asking Mackin to write the ordinance.
No.
We're just asking them to basically be there and organize our thoughts on what we want. You know, we're writing the ordinance. You know, we're going to be the one, all she's doing is scheduling the surveys and scheduling, you know, the meetings, and we, you know, getting the idea of what, you know, what was the idea, what do we want to see in the zoning, and organizing our thoughts in, you know, our hopes and dreams to where they should be.
And she hit something that was pretty spot on with this. It's like the real meat and potatoes of this project is updating the use table.
Right.
What uses do you want to see in the downtown? And that's really what the whole objective of this was, to update the use table. The rest follows in because the borough's downtown mixed-use zoning district was ahead of its time and had something to be preserved with doing the mixed uses and having setbacks at 0 and having heights of 100 foot, you know. So a lot of that free thinking stuff's already there. Now there's some stuff in there that should be sharpened, like some design standards. Like I remember being on planning commission years ago, and your brother with the roof, you know, like there was some funky design standards in there that really don't make sense, you know. You know, and that's just my opinion. Yeah. So.
Mea culpa, mea maximum culpa on the design standards.
You know.
I told you before that was me.
Yeah.
I may not understand.
But they're well intended, you know. You know. So, but the design standards they can't go away, but they can be improved.
Okay.
But I don't write it. I implement. I don't do this. I don't know. That's just me.
Okay, where are we with this?
I don't know, I think we kicked the can down the road 6 months, we're just gonna be in the same spot we are now.
I agree.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know, my feeling is that when I would feel more comfortable what it is that maybe maybe it's my personal responsibility to understand what it is that I, you know, and so, okay, I'll just go with the fact that I need to better understand what I want and voice that at a later date. But in the meantime, I would say let's go for the funding, for the grant, and see what happens.
I think you could always do this if like we have hesitation. The one shining vocal that came out of that comp plan was people like Bridgeville for its downtown. I think we all agree that the downtown is special here, it needs preserved. I don't think anyone would argue that, to a degree. The state told us, get a proposal on what you want and how much it would cost, come back to us and then we'll do the funding off of that. It doesn't mean we have to enter into contract with, planning consultant A or B. We could, you know, say, hey, we wanna do this project. We're asking for this, and then just inflate the number a little bit, knowing that there's hesitation. And if we can't work out, our issues, then we can always go back and put an RFP out again saying, we were awarded X amount of dollars. Can you do a project with
Within
it?
this X amount of dollars.
Mhm.
I think that kind of answers both of our questions. Gives, you know, we're not gonna get a grant in 6 months. And, but, you know, so if we do get a grant in 9 months or a year, gives us a chance to go out for another proposal if we wanted to. Justine can study up on zoning. Crash course, Justine.
John, so what's, does the grants have an end date typically?
Typically, they're usually like 2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay.
But this isn't much money we're talking about here. So, and their proposal is in line with what that work is worth. So the state knows what this work is worth, and will be responsible in giving a grant award for that. You won't get a grant for $155,000 to do this then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we need to put together a recommendation of Borough Council for Joe to apply for a grant.
If that's what you want to be done, I'm asking that you guys make a motion that would recommend that the downtown zoning project be advanced and authorize the manager to apply for a grant to the state to do the project.
Okay, what he said.
And that's it.
Yeah,
Anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Second.
And that's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
Did you lose Justine?
No, I'm here. No, I'm opposing.
Should we just
Did-
continue
did
with
we
the
get
old
an aye
business and
from
go
you?
back to new business, or should we jump around?
Everyone,
Jump around?
maybe Betsy has a preference. She wants to really talk about Greg Avenue stairs. You wanna go backwards?
No, I don't care. I just was, it was fun to be able to say to my spouse, because he's not a fan of that route when we go walking, because he hates those stairs. I said, fine, you're gonna get there. It's gonna be so cool.
I think we're talking about it. We might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
No, Joe had in our packet, the tiniest drawings.
Yeah, you were better off to look at this on the email. The email you could scroll in Zoom.
I did, and even zooming, it was still like, it still seems small. Did you?
That's the concept.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know what that was at first, I have to say, I was like, what the heck is this? And then I figured it out, so yeah,
A vision test.
yes.
Maybe I can give just some background on the project. What we have is the Greg Avenue steps. It was a component of the active transportation plan to rehabilitate this connector between Laurel Street and Greenwood, Greg Avenue. The project, the engineer's estimate for the project, this isn't a bid, is $355,000, and that includes the engineering work and contingency. The actual construction is still rather expensive at $309,000. We were able to get a state multimodal, which is an active transportation grant that funds 70% of the total project, including the engineering. The rest of the project is paid for by the borough's capital improvement fund. The concept of design that the engineer put together to help us advance the project, essentially, if you were standing there now, the steps kind of just dead end in the middle of the hill. So it shows extending an asphalt path all the way to the bottom of Laurel Street, and then the steps are much larger now to meet current, I guess, ADA standards and what riser steps, size of the steps. It includes an aluminum handrail the entire length, and he incorporated a bicycle runnel, which is essentially a trough that runs the length of the steps that you would put your bike in the runnel and walk your bike up the steps as you would go. There was a couple of suggestions that came up in passing over the past month or so after the grant award came out, that we thought maybe it's best that we bounce this off the planning commission before the engineer gets too far into doing construction drawings to go out to bid. Because there was two recommendations that came up that we thought, maybe if these are two come up, what else do other people think? And one was really smart. If you go down Greg Avenue, the sidewalk ends at the last house on the right. It's like, well, why don't they just connect the steps to that sidewalk so that it actually aligns? And that was one.
So I walked down here tonight and walked past that. And would you have the steps meet to where the sidewalk is right now, or would you have the sidewalk go to where the steps are? Because where the sidewalk ends, from there to the steps, there's like a drainage
Correct.
thing.
I think it's gonna be the only above, it's kind of one and the same, they need to be connected,
Right, but I mean, or this, they're from here, they're gonna let this room apart now. I don't know if the steps are gonna come this way towards the sidewalk, or is the sidewalk gonna continue down to the top of where the top of the steps are now?
I don't know, it's something we could bounce off the engineer. We didn't do anything the engineer.
And the other question is for 533 Greg Street, the regular Victoria, where's the property end go? Does it go right to where the end of the sidewalk is? Or is it, 'cause I think that property goes all the way down to the steps.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Essentially, Laurel Street comes up like
Like a paper street.
correct, and this paper street, there was always a set of city steps.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't know where the property line goes.
I don't know,
What's a paper street?
a street that was on a map but was never built.
You weren't at the last council meeting?
They're common.
The last council meeting, you learned all about paper streets.
And then the other suggestion was have a street light over the steps, and that could be facilitated through that same shower.
I would like some light, I think.
That would be definitely a good idea.
I know lights on the street would probably make some people happy in that neighborhood.
On both top and bottom?
Disco balls.
Okay. It looks like he's jamming, so he might like the disco ball idea, I haven't been on the bottom side of that in a long time.
It's just grass, it's like a grass cut.
Yeah, where the borough cuts it.
Okay.
Oh, I still got it. He asked me the next day, and I said, I don't know if the borough cuts this. I kind of think they do. I don't think anybody who's like in the buildings back this way would take all the time to cut that,
Yeah, the borough.
grass.
So the sidewalk would extend out to the street. Okay.
The sidewalk doesn't really go to the street.
Yeah, in the future it would.
Oh, in the future, okay.
Yeah, now it just
Yeah, it
dumps
stops.
you out the bottom
Yeah.
of the woods.
It
It's,
stops.
you have to walk through grass.
Yeah, I think, you want to talk to the people living in the house and see the property. Basically, I think it should connect any kind of goal.
But just down to the step, like nothing beyond the steps towards Greenwood.
There's no other place.
Because there's no sidewalks anywhere anyway.
There's no sidewalk, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
There's might be space for it.
And it's pretty narrow.
There is, the sidewalk does run in front of there's a lot of flora and fauna floating around. And would that involve, would this whole thing involve, does this become part of the borough, sort of taking care of those, the trees and?
Shade tree commission will take care of that.
Yeah, that was a good question though, is there like, if there, the sidewalk built at the bottom end, would there still be space down there to be potentially landscaped?
It could, but I don't know why we could landscape it when a lot of the woods are green. It's the woods, you know?
Yeah, I don't know that landscaping is what I'm thinking so much, is just
Tree maintenance. We do.
cleaning it up,
Yeah.
just making it look intentional instead of right now it doesn't look intentional.
Yes, now it just feels.
It looks like a secret, which actually was kind of cool about it. At first I think, oh my God, I know about this little secret place because nobody ever comes down here. And it's two or three different people said, oh yeah, there's always broken dirt and oh shit.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I guess I didn't mean landscaping so much as like, just maybe some like
Cleaning. it up.
bushes or something that kind of made you along the
More
sidewalk.
defined,
Yeah,
defines
like
the path.
yeah, I don't mean you
I
have
follow.
dragging mulch
Yeah.
down there and stuff, I just mean like,
Potentially.
yeah, something that looks like
Intentional.
intentional and clean, yeah. So maybe we include something like that,
Sure, it's like that.
but yeah, we have.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, back to old business, sorry, shade tree commission. Joe gave us lots of
I know.
samples.
You know which one I like? I like this one.
This one.
This one. No, I'm serious. Because I don't want to get, bogged down in the weeds with this thing.
That's Bethel, Bethel Park, yeah.
It was pretty straightforward. It wasn't a lot. Some of them got into like, really got into the heavy details. I think for this being our first shade tree commission, we just want to, keep it as simple, more so we have something whenever we go to people like Tree Pittsburgh, and we have a tree planting project, they're more inclined to give us trees because we have a shade tree commission, and it's more active with that kind of project, that kind of.
Yeah, I think we need it. Do we have a shade tree?
No, we have nothing.
Oh, I was gonna say, Brad, they missed that one out.
No, that's what we're talking about.
That's where, yeah, that's right.
Okay, good job.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
which one was it that you liked?
I like Bethel Parks. Bethel Park.
Okay,
I mean, you can.
I mean, did you care which one it was, or you just picked up?
No,
one of
actually,
these?
no, I
Like these numbers?
did, no, I'm sorry, I did read them. And like, Ambridge and Crafton, if you read out Ambridge and Crafton, they're almost identical. Like, there's literally chapters in there that are word for word. It's like, yep, we'll take theirs. There's a few things they added. But they get into like the weeds, like, what's the, 40-foot tree is a tall tree. I mean, this tree is a medium tree, this one's a short, small tree. That's something that I don't think you need to get into that for our shade tree commission. We want to, we can decide on how many people we want on a shade tree commission, how long they want to serve, and how long they want to meet. And other than that, keep it pretty simple.
Yeah, I guess I didn't take notes, like, I didn't really write, when I took notes, I didn't write down which ones they came from, I just wrote down what stuff I liked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
the only issue that I had with, Bethel Parks is they didn't have a lot of definitions in there.
So
Like, what is a shade tree?
So you could basically take Ambridge's and use they have all their definitions, pull that and you go.
Yeah.
We're not adopting one of these, we're basically
Like,
make a Frankenstein.
I mean, what is our goal for tonight? Is our goal to have a list of criteria that we would want in?
Or are we going
Or-
to recommend to council that we want them to form a shade tree?
When you're ready, if you're ready for that, you could do that now, but my thought was is that where the discussion left off last month was, hey, let's put a list of recommendations together of what this should be. We don't have to draft the ordinance, let the council draft the ordinance. We would just send to them a recommendation that a shade tree commission should be created. And these are some facts or recommendations that that commission should consist of. And last month, I started running a little tab for you guys. It should only include parks, public properties, right-of-ways. The commission size should be small so that it was effective. We were unanimous that there should be one created, and that's where we left it.
So what, if that's where we left it, what's the next step?
Did you see anything in the other regulations that you asked for that you think should be included in our recommendation letter to Borough Council?
Okay.
There's nothing glaring.
It's something that fits as simple as Mike put it, is we have those recommendations already put together, and we can say, hey, we'd like the format of the Bethel Park regulation and ordinance. We recommend to you that you model your ordinance after that community, and if definitions are sought, this community definitions chapter is a good guide for you.
I have two that I feel like I would want to see in the recommendation to council. One being, I do think that there should be some guidelines around how regularly they meet, so it's not because I know some of these, we're kind of like, they meet when they need to.
One was as needed, but
Yeah.
at least once a year.
Yeah,
One,
yeah.
one was quarterly, one was every month.
I think monthly seems excessive.
That's monthly.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I saw the same thing, I was
Yeah.
thinking maybe quarterly,
Yeah.
quarterly, and then as needed,
Yeah, I was
That's fair.
thinking, that's one of those quarterly, while you're doing something that doesn't have ad nauseum printed all over it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was
Yeah.
like, once a month for shade tree, you don't need that.
No, but like,
Hell, back in the day, planning commission didn't meet. Look where we are at now.
yeah, I just felt like once a year seemed not,
Yeah,
like we're not taking it seriously, like
exactly.
we want this because we take
Yeah,
it
exactly.
seriously.
Mhm.
My other component, and I don't remember reading it in any of these, but I feel like we would want to make a recommendation to this, from my perspective, that we are utilizing native planting, native trees, at least like 80% of the time, or is,
Well, I mean, I know, Tree Pittsburgh's motto is, not motto, but one of their mantras is the right tree, right place. Maybe we pull some verbiage out of what they do, because I'm sure that they're big on native trees.
yeah.
And it's like I said, they always do right tree, right place. That's why so many, a lot of things fail, because people plant a tree because they like what it looks like, and it doesn't belong there. It grows too big, or too fat, or too many small leaves in some dirty tree, where you should never put that tree there. And I think that's the goal of the shade tree commission. One of the things they should do is be knowledgeable on what kind of trees, and maybe they take a tree tender course
Yeah.
at Tree Pittsburgh, and to learn about right tree, right place, stuff like that.
So maybe we put that in the recommendation then, that
Yeah.
we want the shade tree commission to take the tree tender course.
At Tree Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I have a question. Did any one of these talk about an arborist, consulting an arborist at any given time?
I remember reading, Justine, but I don't think they specified arborists, but I do remember reading, consult professionals.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that's, it's great that we want this, and I would hope that we would always do the right thing, but I'm always in fear that, we're not gonna do the right thing, and we're gonna chop down a 100-year-old tree that didn't need to be chopped down. So, I mean, maybe every 2 years we get an inventory from an arborist, or at least look at failing trees, something like that. I mean,
Davy Trees sits on Bethel Park Shade Tree Commission.
Okay.
He planted trees with us
At
down on
Baldwin
Baldwin
Street,
Street.
yeah.
Yes.
What if we have anybody in Ridgewood, some works for something like
Bless
that?
you. That's good.
And I believe he's like the chairman of their Shade Tree Commission.
You know?
I think that's a good idea, though. Is she-
Does he, this,
She put something in the chat.
the shade tree guy, does he live in the community that, well, that, if we had, do we have such an animal here?
We don't know. That's something we have to
Could
ask.
ask. Do you think we
The
should?
Bethel,
Go ahead, Dan.
the Bethel Park, zoning, the Bethel Park ordinance in section 13.4.2 says the council may appoint up to 3 alternate members who have particular experience, expertise that is beneficial to the commission, including but not limited to arborists, landscape architects, experts at utility pruning practices, blah, blah, blah.
So how do we find somebody like that that lives in Ridgeville?
Asking around.
Put the word out.
Put the word out.
Well, that'd probably be a good idea, then
Yeah.
get going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's, I mean, to start the Shade Tree Commission, I don't think that's something that would, I mean, that's something.
I mean, you can always hire one too.
Yeah,
Well, there's an element of, start as you mean to go on.
Mhm.
We wouldn't wanna get 6 months down the road or a year down the road and then
if
finally
you,
get our
if
hands
you
on
drive
it.
around Ridgeville and you look for somebody that's a Davy Tree truck parked in front of their house, like, that guy, because I think there used to be a Davy Tree park on Chetler Chartiers all the time. So, that's a, when you're trying to run, there you see a landscaping truck.
And we're kind of fortunate where a lot of our trees or our plan is through Tree Pittsburgh. They'll
Yeah.
come out and
Yeah,
consult with us.
yeah,
They'll
they'll
bring
be,
out-
they'll be a very good resource.
So we're fortunate being so close to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
We can use
Well,
that.
I think what I'm saying is, if we've got somebody that we know about, or we can find out in relatively short order about, awesome. Otherwise, I think we take people who care, some people that have some expertise, and move forward. Because we can talk this guy to death.
Yeah. I think at this point, we want to make a recommendation to council based off the information we have.
And then a couple of things that Melissa and
Yeah.
you guys have for tonight, I can add to that and put a letter together, and I'll circulate the letter with you guys before we send it over.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Did we make a motion or anything?
I don't think so. We have to make a motion.
I think we're making it official that, hey, we recommend creating a shade tree commission and.
Okay. All right, someone make a motion?
I move that we establish a shade tree commission, and we have at least one person with some expertise involved in that. Was that part of our
No,
decision?
no,
Or was
that's-
just,
no,
we're gonna
that's-
make the shade,
yeah.
okay,
Just-
so I
just
move
make a letter.
that we establish a shade tree commission.
I'll
Second?
Second, there you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Cool.
Okay, motion carries.
Yeah.
Look at us getting all this stuff done.
From Lawrenceville, and go to a tree tending course, it's very enjoyable, get a free t-shirt.
They on Saturdays?
Saturdays.
Okay. How many, classes is it?
I don't, there's one class, that's when I was
Oh.
at work, yeah.
Oh, okay. I gotta go do that. Okay, next one is Baldwin Street lots repurposing. We started talking about this last month. And Joe, I liked your idea about, if we look at this as, let's develop one lot per year, like we did one last year. Which one do we wanna work on for this year? So Joe gave us a handout with the results from the survey during the comp plan. And so from the community perspective, their top pollinator garden. But I think what was nice about the comments were people, like the public seemed to recognize that we could have a multi-purpose, like we could use one of these spaces and then encompass the history, like the history walk that we wanted to create. We could have raised beds built into that pollinator garden, because that's gonna, I mean, that's good for cross-pollination anyway. So realistically, if we start working towards one of these, we're gonna be able to like kind of go on it.
I think read again the first one.
Community space for occasional parking and community functions.
Yeah, see, to me, that's a great idea, but who's the organizer of that puppy? I like the second one better because, hey,
We can start working on it now.
well, it can be started, yeah, and it's much more, to me, it'd be much more, ultimately much more visible. Especially if we had a situation where we had signage, you know, that talks about whatever we're doing relative to butterflies, bees, or any other thing.
I agree. I mean, if we've got 2 lots on Baldwin in development of something, then when we start to build the community space on the third, we've got other stuff that are drawing people to, you know, come down there.
That's fine.
Dale, Justine, what do you think? I mean, do you think it would be the right thing to move forward with the pollinator, starting the pollinator garden?
I think it would be the easiest, the least expensive, the showiest for the time being, right? And it's, you know, simply digging up ground and amending it if necessary and sowing seeds. And then we can move on from there to add to whatever else we want in there. You know, the community public center, I think would be great as a next one, or the third one, simply because if we could get that coffee shop in there next to Serafina, right?
Yep.
And we have a parking, or not a parking, but a seating area behind there. You know, it would be convenient for people to go and sit on a picnic bench and have their lunch under a pergola or something like that. So I think that would probably take longer to develop and get approved. I know Joe and I had talked about it, and it's something that probably, I know that Mackin actually did a good rendering of what it could look like. And I think Joe had mentioned that it would probably not be that difficult for Public Works to perform the work. But at the same time, I think let's just plan for a garden. Let's figure out the lot, plan for a garden, start scoping out now what the steps are. So that if we're gonna plant in the fall, or we're gonna plant in the spring, that sort of thing. I mean, after we get council approval, of course.
Yeah. And the nice thing too is if you do something that's easier and it can be done faster, it's like we have multiple
other words, it can always be amended or added to. That's my vision, is that if something doesn't work because we're in too much shade or whatever, something like that, then it can be resurrected as something else.
Yep.
All right. And my opinion is, I think the lot behind the beer distributor would be a good one. Understanding though that when we do flood, that lot does get flooded.
That's the first one to get flooded.
Right, right. At the same time, then maybe we at some point think about putting a rain garden in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
you know,
yeah, or, I mean, if we know,
Hawthorne.
like, what mixes they're putting in at McLaughlin Field, you know, if we use something similar, they'll be able to handle
right.
a little bit of, you know, water for a day or whatever. I like that lot too, Justine.
I'm sorry?
I like that lot too for this garden.
Mhm. I mean, it's clean now, but remember when you and I looked at it in March, it still had all the cement
Yeah,
pieces of the house. Well, that's gone. I guess Public Works, somebody dug it up shortly afterwards. So it is a clean lot. From rubble as far as we can see. So, yeah, I think it would be a nice entrance to Baldwin Street.
it's like right behind the beer distributor, that little parking lot behind the beer distributor, and people, so there's like a nice lot right behind it.
It's one of the bigger lots.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger ones, there's a few trees, and, you know,
Because I just, you're talking about stuff, at least I'm hearing, I think you're talking about stuff that's on it. Blank space.
Were you guys thinking of like drawing up like just like a simple rendering of this on here?
yeah, I think that'd be a good, yeah, because that way we could show like, yeah, we could potentially put some raised beds in here, but we could start with a pollinator garden, you know, build these couple sections out, leave a space for beds. And then if we do have that, we were talking about that community space being that lot right across the street from it, right? So then it would be like, that'd be perfect, because then you're gonna have this big, beautiful flower garden right across the way.
I think
Right.
the one that I was thinking we were going to focus on was the one across the street, so.
The one across the street is what the Mackin rendering is. Like, and that's when the Justine was just saying it would be perfect for once the coffee shop opens up here.
Oh, coffee.
They were here.
The coffee shops, oh, they have a lot in there, yeah. They're that close to the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So Justine, did you put something together?
Yeah, Justine, do you wanna, we can put together like a little drawing?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that we could probably talk to the Western Conservancy and see what, if they have any recommendations as to design, you know, somebody that can help us with the design. I mean, there has to be somebody out there that does native gardening. I mean, even that Penn State, Facebook page should be able to provide some sort of guidance.
Oh yeah, maybe we could ask, yeah, we might be able to ask one of the master gardeners if they would wanna help with this. They have to do volunteer hours.
Right, right.
That's a good idea.
So, yeah, let's do it.
Good. So we don't need to do anything else?
No,
Right? Okay. So Pat, we're ready for
Pat,
that.
your time to
Thank
shine.
you. Joe, I couldn't agree more about the minimum parking regulations. And thank you for mentioning the fact that that which is now in vogue was once something that we were being forced to fight for. So yes. We're right now, and I believe it's still an issue with the property on McLaughlin Run Road that is looking for a variance. Is that still out there, Joe?
Yes, they're applying back to zoning hearing board, they meet Village of Lyon.
Right. This is because the borough, in my opinion, the borough's business parking requirements don't match what they need to be. borough requires more parking, minimum parking. And this is constraining the development. It is constraining the development of the business district. So the borough requires minimum parking, that stops development. The developer is now asking for a variance. In my humble opinion, the variance is not warranted, but that's for the zoning hearing board to decide. I come before you to ask you, as a planning body, to look at the minimum parking requirements and recommend that the council change them to more appropriately reflect the community that we desire to have, rather than the outdated thoughts of urban planners from many years ago that required parking for what they thought communities should look like, as opposed to the community we have. Because many years ago, they advised Bridgeville to adopt minimum number of parking spaces based on having a shopping mall. You wanted your town to be able to have a lot of parking around businesses. And I'm really looking because some people are not, Mike, I think you get this, and others are, the history is important. So the consultants came in and said, Bridgeville, you've got to require new businesses to have lots of parking so that they have places for their cars to go. And so that's what Bridgeville did. I'm here to ask the Planning Commission to take another look at it, because that's not what Bridgeville is. Bridgeville is not looking to be a parking lot. It never has been. And now the consultants are out there telling us, Bridgeville, you were right. These urban towns, they don't have to have, how many parking spaces do those guys need down there? 30?
For the size that he
Right.
wants, because he has a very large space, 54.
Yes, 54 spaces. That's not, he can't make that. I mean, he's trying to get it off-site, he's trying to shoehorn himself into it. And it's sad because it's not the town we really want. It's a town that a consultant who's probably long gone wanted for our community. So please, spend some time taking a look at those minimum parking requirements.
Joe, when Brandy was talking, she mentioned that, I mean, it is a topic that's been brought up. I mean, obviously, if we went through the progression of our new zoning and made it, that's going to be a while before that topic gets brought up. Is that something we could talk about sooner than later?
You talking about doing it as part of the downtown work, or doing it separate?
Like, talk about looking at the zoning and what is minimum parking, what is the requirements?
No, we can do that now. And it could be done it could be done simultaneously. We can start talking now, because some people will be of the mindset that I don't want, like, for example, that business that's going down there, like, some of the people around them are concerned that, oh, they're going to be parking in my lot. And
Right.
Are they? I don't know,
It's like everything else. It's when you first, I mean, if you remember whenever Benner's was going on, I mean, you had this chamber was packed with people saying, you can't let them build up there because it's gonna be a highway coming down Mill Street. They've been up there for how many years now? Is it a highway? And we've had problems. It's people are afraid to change because they think it's what the possibility is, then it happens, and it's like, it's not gonna happen.
We can start talking about it now, putting
Because
We can-
it's a
we can
karate
put
base he
advances.
wants to put in there?
yes, it's an educational studio.
Okay.
There's a permitted use.
I mean, it's a good business, it's nothing.
And they limit it, we're one parking spot for every 75 foot of square
Yeah.
of area. And that's, in the area of them, there's like 4,500 square feet, so it requires 54, and I think he produced a number from 45 to 4,000 something to get it to 54, but it only has 24 or 27 spaces on the block. So it makes it tough. But how often, like, when you look at, we'll just say, or Kmart, like the whole shopping plaza, there's a parking lot for Kmart. And then now, you're seeing all this other development in the front because Kmart didn't need parking lots to Route 50.
Right.
And it's kind of the same argument. So it's, we can do that now. We can kind of take advantage of the consultant that's doing the work for the downtown to say, hey, you think the parking's recommendation should be, if you want an educational student, instead of one for every 75, it's one for every 150.
Yeah.
And then that could be just cookie cutter over for all districts. And we start planting seeds now, and then when the consultant comes on board, then they can refine it based on what we're talking about and what the industry trends are going with and how urban planning is now. So it could be done. So if you'd like as an agenda item, we can add that next month.
What about making it free? Or is that a bridge too far?
We, it could
What are
be.
you talking about?
This-
Parking up street.
Yeah.
Parking in the entire
That's what I'm
community
saying.
of Bridgeville is absurd to pay for parking, my personal opinion. That's
I'm
just,
with you.
It's not our purview, though, right?
What is it?
It's not our purview.
But
It could be your purview, but they can listen, is the
Oh,
thing.
right.
You can say that, hey, we think there should be free parking, they can just send it over, you know, so it could be it. But,
Okay, let's do it. Next month.
but, I'll have it on, the next month's agenda, just start talking about minimum parking standards.
Yes, I had a second one. And this echoes into Dale's comment to Brandy about, you know, the downtown, that part from Bower Hill Road north, it really doesn't look like it belongs to part of the downtown, right, Dale? That's what you were talking about that's what you were talking about there being a difference, and maybe we needed two different areas of downtown. Apart from Bower Hill, north to Collier. Right? Okay. And,
Well, the possibility of having two different, you know,
right. And I'm gonna push back on that for a second and say, I think that the downtown south of Bower Hill Road looks a whole lot better than the downtown north of Bower Hill Road to Collier. And so I'm gonna ask the Planning Commission, part of the comprehensive plan that you adopted was to do a project. I know that the borough is working with our neighbors. I know that that's moving along. But I believe that this body is the best place to look at how to get the north end of Washington Avenue to be what you want it to be. Okay? And part of that is finding parking down there. From Bower Hill Road to Collier Township, there is no public parking. Now, the parking authority is tasked with managing public parking, but the Planning Commission has a role there in perhaps finding a place in the plan for parking. Again, there are component pieces. Parking, the street itself, the landscaping. You know, what we have from Bower Hill Road to Collier Township is something that doesn't look good. There's only one thing I can think of that looks really good, and that's a particular sculpture that's down there in front of JLJI, although I will say that I appreciated what JLJI did in the renovation of the old borough building. Okay? But and when you look from Bower Hill Road north, a bit of a plan.
I think that's the idea too. And then as far as zoning, and Joe, you said like Ambridge, when they did their zoning, they had different zoning for different areas on their main street. You know, we could look at that.
Yeah, but I think that was not what the comp plan was speaking to.
Right.
We're thinking of today, we're not thinking of tomorrow.
And Joe, because I may be misleading in my conversation, I'm pointing out what Dale was saying and saying, no, we don't need two different zones. We need one zone because when you're done, from bridge to bridge, the business district should look beautiful.
And that's what.
Right.
And so we only need one zone.
Right.
We don't need two different zones. What we need is a planning commission that you guys come up with a plan, and then Joe Cower gets a lot of money to get that plan implemented, so that the streets look nice. That this, you know, again, I'll get to this, the wires and the spaghetti.
the wires and the spaghetti.
I call it spaghetti, the utility line.
Utility line.
Line the north end of town. I call it, well, yeah.
Thinking of
if
Italian
you look at
restaurants,
the-
I don't know where we're going.
If
Okay.
you look down there,
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, it's not an attractive place.
and it's so much for the community. Yes, it should be one zone, and it should all really look good. But that doesn't happen without you.
I think that's what we're working towards.
Well, sure, but my only criticism, it's not on. I'm looking at your agenda.
It's on there, Pat.
What?
That's what that was.
What, the north end?
No, downtown. And then the comp plan
Oh.
spoke to that as the downtown was bridge to bridge.
It's there. Can we get it done in 5 or 6 years, maybe? Can we get something, just as you spoke about a grant,
Oh, I think we can.
so can we get something that's put out there as a plan that can get onto the transportation improvement plan for the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission, so that it might get funded by PennDOT? Can we get a plan that can get, some grant money to do the kind of sidewalks and streetscape that we'd like? Can we find a location to maybe recommend a parking lot to the parking authority?
I agree, you need parking down at that end, but we gotta find out where to put it. I mean, it's a search.
Certainly, and you and I, we've discussed it many times, Mike. There's lots of possibilities. It's choices.
Yeah.
And would I love to hear you all debating one location versus another versus a third? Yeah, because I think that's what it takes. It takes hard choices. It takes hard choices as to where that lot should be and what should be sacrificed to have not a massive amount of parking, but some. And that eliminates, that brings in the kind of density that you might be looking for. So thank you. Thank you for spending the time, and thank you for listening.
Thanks, Pat. Anything else? So we need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
A second?